Hey, how's it going?
Hello, going good. Thanks for helping out with gatekeeper presentation once again.
That's all good. Yeah, no, thanks for helping get some little updates and things for the presentation. It's funny how like KubeCon is the most predictable, dependable, and consistent event. Yeah, it still seems to catch us off guard every 6 months. Still trying to work that one out. Yeah. So yeah, whereabouts are you based?
Sorry?
Whereabouts are you based? Where do you work?
Seattle. Seattle, Microsoft.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just wondered whether you'd ever tended to go to the events.
So far, I
Mm.
have not been to one. I'm trying
Yeah.
to be at one. So.
They're good fun. Like, yeah. I mean, I find them hard work, but I do enjoy going. And yeah. Social for social reasons and for work reasons, I think.
Hey Charlie,
Hey.
long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. When this call got it's 6 o'clock local time for me, so it's when it got moved from 5 to 6, the energy to attend dropped off by around about 100%, but not
6 p.m.
not
right? Not 8.
100 not 100% because I'm here, but yeah, it became a bit trickier to join them on a regular basis.
Yeah, I know. I mean, as in like, hey, I saw you on KubeCon last, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been in Chicago, right? We did the talk, but I think that was the last
Mhm.
time that I maybe chatted to you. I think the call time was updated around about then, sometime last year.
It's 6 p.m., right? Not a.m.
Yeah, 6 p.m.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, we're a bit ahead of you.
Yeah, I
So
would
yeah, I've
prefer
been
a 6 p.m. call than 6 a.m. call. I'm more like
yeah, me too.
later person than an early person.
Yeah, I'm actually a later person than usual because I'm still uh I'm in the kind of tail end of it now, adjusting after last week, of course. So yeah. Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
going good. How are you doing? Long time no see. I'm
Yeah,
having a
likewise.
similar conversation as each new person joins.
About a long time no see, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the morning meetings always fun. There's this KubeCon sparks the reunion.
Yeah. Well, let's keep Connor and Opa 1.0 and so on. Yeah. Like I was saying, it's the calls, and I think it was about a year ago. The call got moved. The early call we got moved an hour later, sort of past the end of my working day. So I've not been
Hmm.
so good at showing up. But yeah, Opa 1.0, been chatting to Rita about some of the options there. So she asked if I could join today. So I happened
Cool.
not to have anything on, so I'm here.
Yeah, I just pinged Rita if she could make it. She's coming.
My cat is staring out the window. So his paws up, and he's sort of on his hind leg.
It'll start snowing soon or something.
Yeah, it's raining. That's about as good as we get here.
They got foresight, better foresight than human.
Yeah, the Bay Area is getting the bomb cyclone.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So this
we like
this week is all rain. I think the Pacific Northwest already got it, right, Jay?
Yeah, it was yesterday night. Like there were huge wind, like very fast gusts of winds, and my lights were flickering. Internet was down for some time and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So today it's bright and sunny. So I guess all the winds moved the clouds away.
I think it came here.
Are are you impacted by the storm?
No, I mean I was yesterday night a little, but not right now.
Okay. I heard like half of Washington is like all down.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fortunately, I have internet, so I'm good.
Good for you.
Yeah, I think it's coming here, so brace
It's
yourself.
coming and down.
Yeah. Do we do you want to start with the OPA V1? We should probably talk about the release also.
I think your microphone, or I can't hear you, Rita.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, yep, that
Okay.
seems to be working.
Yeah, it's like so many microphones. Which one is it? I know, first world problem. Yeah. Jay, did you also want to talk about that bug you saw in the test? I wonder if it's a thing racing condition that we haven't thought of.
No, I think it was like yesterday. You suggested that it might be because the VAP binding is not getting deleted soon enough. And I think that was the bug. I actually added the delete code when constraint is also getting deleted and ran the unit tests, and it was not failing.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I know that fixes the test, but I still want to bring up the issue just to see if
Yeah,
it's an acceptable behavior, and make sure, we didn't forget something. So the issue is when deleting CT constraints, that binding gets deleted last, and therefore it could result in failed close if param kind CRD is not found in the cluster. So we actually saw this in the CI, in the E to E. Obviously, like Jay said, if he adds a delete for the binding, it solves the problem. But obviously, in a regular cluster, that wouldn't be the case. And obviously, we added the wait for the creation of that binding, but we didn't think of it for delete. What do folks think about that experience?
I think in general, deletes should kind of be handled in the opposite order of creates.
Yeah, that's why it's awkward. It's like the binding was created last, right? When you create. But when we delete, it's actually deleted last because it's deleted when its owner reference is deleted.
Right. So I'm saying opposite order, delete the binding first.
Right. But we don't have anything in Gatekeeper to handle that.
do it.
Yeah.
Oh, because we're just relying on garbage collection by the Kubernetes API server.
That's right.
Oh, it's fine to like manually delete things that have owner references. Like what the owner references do is they're just insurance. If like gatekeeper is down and someone deletes the constraint, like it will still get cleaned up. because
yeah.
the K8s API server is there.
But I think the issue is that do we expect users to do that?
Do we expect users to delete the constraint or expect
No, the
users-
binding.
We don't expect the user to delete the
Right?
binding.
They usually delete the constraint or constraint template.
Yeah.
So this might happen to a customer, but we don't really expect them to delete the binding.
Right. So,
I mean,
so
this might
the,
be an E2E case also.
so the
because
experience is when a policy is removed from Gatekeeper, it takes some time for that binding to get deleted. And during that time, the resources could be blocked because the binding will be like, hey, this CRD that you rely on is no longer in the cluster, right?
Wait, is anyone like actually against deleting the binding in the constraint controller when the constraint is deleted? Or
No one is against that.
okay, and that code doesn't exist, and we're discussing adding it, or am I missing a
Let
detail?
me just double check if it doesn't
It
exist.
doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
why didn't this an issue in 1.30 and 31J?
I don't know. That's
Yeah, so the other weird thing is it only happens on 129, so might be a 129 bug.
Well, it might. I mean, it'll be a race condition, right? Like it depends how performant the API server is with regard to garbage collection,
Yep.
and how quickly we perform requests to validate that they successfully go through, or whatever the follow-on request is that is failing.
But I think it was consistently failing in 129, right, Jay? And then it always passes on the other ones.
And just because it's not failing in one place doesn't mean it won't in the future. Right? That's like because
Correct.
these timing racing things, it's hard to catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would expect like it to pass like once maybe. Like the other ones are always passing.
I wouldn't
I mean,
necessarily.
we could get really unlucky in 129, obviously.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that. Like, you could get fairly stable race conditions that differ on like process type, or like putting a sleep in code, you technically still have a race condition, right? If you have an abnormally slow processor, you can bypass your sleep, or you can exceed your sleep time. You've just like made it very hard to fail your race condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on why it's happening one place or the other. I think, again, I didn't hear any oppositions against deleting that binding explicitly when a constraint is deleted. So if everybody's okay with that, I think we should just add it to the constraint controller, because right now it's not done. So if we're okay with that, let's go to the next thing.
Yeah, just quick question. Would we expect customer to edit the binding manually to add anything or no?
But we will reconcile, like we will update the binding on the next constraint reconcile.
Okay, so it will get overwritten anyway.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, then
Right. It's a gatekeeper thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a user thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so sounds good then. Okay. Next one. See, I knew there was a bug with this. Like, it wasn't just trust tests. Tests are great. They could give us like signals when the code isn't doing something right. Because we were like, oh, it's the test. I'm like, no, I feel like it's the code. Okay, sorry. Okay, next one. Okay, OPA v1 migration. I think sorry I wasn't here last week, but Max, did you want to kind of give a summary of what you think should be happening?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so for OPA, so right now, a lot of my complaints are like mooted by the fact that there is a configuration knob that preserves, for lack of a word, better word, v0 compatibility. Let me know if I should be using a different word here. Which basically means that the Rego is like a drop-in replacement. And so when I think about things from gatekeepers' side of things and from a gatekeeper user's side of things, the mere existence of Rego v1 versus Rego v0, not a bad thing, right? Like if I can like upgrade my constraint templates at will, say like, hey, I'm going to use the v1 version of Rego, please treat my code accordingly. Like internally, Gatekeeper can just like keep two interpreters, right? One that's coded for backwards compatibility, one that's not, and just select between the two. And as long as the cache can be shared across those interpreters, which we currently do, right? Because each constraint template is compiled in its own separate Rego environment, and we share the cache. Not a big issue, not a heavy lift. But when it comes to dropping v0 flavors of Rego entirely, I think that's where we get into issues, right? Like, basically, the fact that there is a migration effort happening, right? That's something that one of the promises of Gatekeeper or the constraint template abstraction is to avoid sort of like forced effort to maintain operations, right? And speaking realistically, in a Kubernetes world where there's VAP that is like hard coded into Kubernetes versus Rego, which is not, in the case where there's an option to rewrite something in VAP, which is not always the case, right? Because Rego supports referential, VAP does not. The effort would be better spent migrating to VAP if there's going to be effort spent. Beyond that, see, I'm trying to remember my thoughts from a week ago. Sorry, I didn't realize I didn't prepare anything, so this is all impromptu. Beyond that, if I think about how would I do this, right? Okay, so let's assume that we do like create two flavors of constraint templates, right? Or constraint template engines, right? One that supports v0 Rego, one that supports v1 Rego, right? We'll need to create both versions because there will be sort of a version skew, right? Of users that are on older versions of Gatekeeper, users that are on newer versions of Gatekeeper. Older versions won't recognize v1. Newer versions, I assume CVE patching will take its course. Eventually, v0 support will be sunsetted, right?
So just like I've been chatting to Rita today, like it may be depending on how you are getting the Rego policies to the Rego evaluator that you need to do some higher level split. But if you have, I mean, I've shared it it's in the linked issue, some examples of how you would use Rego code from how you might use Rego code from v0 Rego code and v1 Rego code in the same program in the same place. I think after a short discussion with Rita, it made sense to the way that I was imagining it was that Gatekeeper would need to work out the Rego that it was expected to evaluate that was v0 and the Rego that was expected to evaluate that was v1 and create two policy bundles to load into the Rego evaluator when needing to make a perform an evaluation. So I don't know. It may be that you do need to split that higher up for some reason based on how those policies are being sourced, or like in order to identify what version they are, but it may not be that you're necessarily we're talking about creating an entirely separate engine for Rego V1. I think as long as you have the information about what version of Rego this policy is, I'm expecting to find in this string, then I think you should be able to make an update to your existing Rego implementation to support that.
Yeah, I'm actually not super concerned by the existence of V0 and V1 together, right? Like having a V0 supported, V1 supported. I think we can get those breadcrumbs. The quick question about that: if I am V0 compatible, if Rego encounters V1 syntax, it will still compile it, right? It's just it won't complain if the V0 code has stuff that V1 expects, right? Like the if prefix.
So if you want to load, I guess like if you provide V0 Rego and you tell OPA that this is V1, then that won't work. Like I don't know if that answers the question. Like
oh no, other way around. Like, so let's say I told Rego, hey, allow V0,
yeah.
but here's a module that's V1 as well. That will work, or that will
yeah like the way to, you can in the manifest metadata about we call them bundles, like the collection of modules which are based on a series of Rego files. In the metadata for that, you can specify the Rego version. So you would have at least 2 bundles, one for V0 and one for V1. Maybe the V1 is empty, or the V0 is eventually empty, but there will be a time where they can both be populated and both be evaluated at the same time, as long as they are in the correct bundle.
Okay, so the thing is, we don't use OPA at the bundle level. We use it at the Golang level. Like, I'm super worried about this. This is just while I have you here.
I mean, like, just in the interest of clarification, like, I'm not referring to like a TarGZ bundle. I'm referring to like a GoStruct bundle that's supplied as a Rego argument to the Rego evaluator.
Okay,
so like it's still like that mechanism of like packaging a series of Rego modules is like yeah, it's a bundle inside and outside. But I'm aware you're not using the outside TarGZ bundle, but like there's still like a mechanism which we call bundles.
Okay, and we call the compiler directly and sort of pre-compile things, but I'm guessing then like this just like boils down into slightly different calls than you're talking about, right? Like providing.
Yeah, so like at the moment, I think you have lines like as shown on the screen at the moment. You have lines that sets up a new instance pretty similar to starting in 120, and but you're not using 121, the parsed bundle, and the lines before that set up two different parsed bundles ready for inclusion with different Rego versions. And if you scroll slightly further up, you'll see the different syntaxes, but I think that's just.
But just to clarify, you still have to set it yourself. Like it wouldn't be able to automatically detect if you're
No, so you would need, so I think like the way that I'd imagined it is like if you had a gatekeeper user who was like interested in using the Rego V1 syntax, they would need to annotate that resource in some way, or I don't know, maybe you would need to like use a flag, or I'm not sure how you would expose it to people who are providing V1 Rego. Like I wasn't sure what would be the most appropriate way to do that, but like once you knew whether it was V0 or V1, then you could put them into these two buckets.
And I just chatted the place where Gatekeeper calls or creates a compiler and calls the compile option. So I'm guessing that there's some place here to provide a syntax hint, basically.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I had seen earlier, like I found it because I was looking for it, but now I don't have it to hand, where you call Where you call Rego new.
Can we do this in a like all or nothing way, like on a constraint template level?
So that would be my understanding, was that as long as you were able to put individual policies into either of the V0 or the V1 bucket, then it doesn't have this whole proposal would allow you to do it per file that you're loading.
Yeah, like sorting the policies isn't a concern to me. I'm not super concerned about this as long as there's a way to do it. This being the compiling and or parsing, like, you know, maybe it's when we're calling the parse module versus compile. But clearly somewhere, because you have it in your bundles stuff, there's a way to give a version hint. So in my mind, it's just a matter of whether that's a public parameter or not. And yeah, Surtesh, with regard to like individual constraint templates, because each individual constraint template is compiled separately, like it's sort of moot how granular Rego does it, because we literally have separate Regos per constraint template. Let's
I see.
see.
Would that be a new engine for V0 and V1, or would that be some other like annotation inside the constraint
Well,
template?
I think it depends on where you can call the set Rego version. That's what Charlie just showed, right? Is obviously you could set it when you create a new Rego, or you could set it in a bundle, right? Like here. But we
Yeah.
don't do bundles, so then it's like, where can we add that function here? Basically, that's the question.
So the bit that I had seen was in the drive. It was in the link that I just shared, the Rego driver go file. Like in here, like this is a list of Rego arguments that are passed at initialization time, and if we could get have the policy to the two V0 and V1 policy bundles at that time, then this is where they would need to get to, I suppose, is what I'm...
Okay, so it's in the runtime call where we specify V0 or V1. Is what you're saying. Well, I call it runtime, this 218 stuff, because it's at query time that this is invoked. Everything else is like pre-constructed. But you're saying lines 218 to 225.
Well, that was where I had imagined it going, because I was like, oh, like this is where they'll need to put it. But if you needed it to be on the compiler, I would need to have a think about what that would look like.
Oh, that's I think that's workable, putting it there. The only sort of why I was talking about mixing and matching is we do have, and sorry, I'm going to chat another code link to you, some core Rego code that is like shared across everything. So this is just, you know, it's the thing that allows overriding of input, which it looks like still can be done in V1. And so basically, I overlinked. It should be like lines 22 through 46 here. That is common code that is compiled into every constraint template. It would be nice to only have one version of the code, right? That's V1 compatible, but also works with V0. If that's not possible, it's not that much code. But
I think that should be possible. I guess like the way I would think about that is that you have maybe 3 bundles, which is like user provided policy V0, user provided policy V1, and then like internal policy, and then that's whatever version you want it to be, preferably V1, but whatever.
Oh yeah. This could be migrated, no issue. Okay, as long as we can mix versions, and that's possible. To be clear, like this would be included. Let's see, where does hook module rego come into things? Probably during compilers. Hook module rego. Okay, so you're just what? Okay, so hook module is just its own thing. So where does hook module?
But let's say I'm trying to understand how this interacts with user input in constraint template. Like if this becomes V1, could it work with V0?
Yeah, and it's the compile module. So basically, we create a map of modules. There's the hook module, there's the constraint template, source code, and then there's whatever other libraries are bundled into the constraint template. All of that is a map of modules that then gets passed to compiler.compile, which at that point, it sounds like there's no version hint. And then it gets passed to, at runtime, right, when it's time to actually evaluate the constraint, it gets passed to the driver.go lines 218 to 225.
So
Yeah.
if you want to do it on the compiler, I can work. I'll do it tomorrow. A separate example. I haven't got one prepared for that. So if that's where you need to have all of your policies packaged ahead of time, I can get that set up.
Okay, as long as it's easy or there's a way around it, like it doesn't much matter. But it's just that yeah. So for performance reasons, that's why we pre-compile, and also why we compile in two separate environments.
Yeah, I can put together another example in that same project, and I will add a comment on the issue, the V1 preparatory work issue. I can do that.
Yeah, and so all of this actually was not super concerning to me, by the way, because this is all like the existence of two versions, like that is, there's a path forward there. It's more just like I get the feeling that V0 will be sunset at some point.
What's the reason that you get that feeling? Because it's not been part of our messaging, and like backwards compatibility is like quite important, and we want people to upgrade because we think that it's better. But like we're putting in quite a lot of effort to maintain the V0 compatibility, and like in fact this is like the major sort of item we're working on before the release. So like I am interested as to like where that concern comes from.
Okay, yeah. Some of it was just usually when they push people to migrate, they meaning just in general, when people push someone to migrate, usually that's because they're deprecating and eventually removing the old thing. I was also maybe reading between the lines of this blog post where the talk, let's see, where was it in here? Was it maintenance? An increased cost of maintenance for sure, but more importantly, old ideas, language constructs, and built-in functions all add to the cost of learning Rego compared to having policy look and act consistently using only modern equivalent features. Okay, so one thing I was inferring from that line is, one, there's a maintenance cost that ideally would be reduced, which is understandable, and two, maybe there's syntactic limitations that you were running into, right? That literally supporting these sort of archaic Rego syntax features would prevent you in the V1 flavor of Rego from doing something that you were looking forward to doing. So if I'm wrong, that's happy news for me.
So I mean, like I would see it as like there isn't like a massive pile of stuff that we're ready to like you know, deliver immediately like post 1.0, and you know that you know I think it, you know, is a consolidating major release, and you know represents an important milestone, but it doesn't immediately unlock loads of like you know, disruptive changes that creates loads of maintenance work that immediately poses a huge burden to maintain to maintain the v0 compatible mode. And like the general wording in the blog post and in the maintainer track talk, which we just presented at KubeCon, is aimed at end users who are writing their own policies. For end users who are writing their own policies, you know, the message is that they're encouraged to upgrade to the new syntax, and to you know, in order to stay current with under the assumption that, you know, like it's under their control, it's within their power, it's part of staying up to date, but it's not a sort of monumental effort for them to do so. We've provided OPA check, OPA format right. You know, we've got some good tools to largely automate the process. So for people who are in control of their policies, the message, you will see the messaging as like we're encouraging people to upgrade to V1. But however, yourselves, you're in a slightly different situation where you're running a lot of code from other people, like that's the whole product. And you know, the as presented in the maintainer track talk at KubeCon, and the messaging around this is for like library integrators, that there is this v0 compatible mode specifically for this use case. We're just not encouraging end users to do it, because then nobody will ever upgrade potentially, or many people may never upgrade to V1.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So apologies that my presumption of the V0 thing was like an interim thing, because that was the anchoring of most of my concern. Everything else was like, yeah, okay.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's here to stay, and until we think it's acceptable for us to remove it. Like, I don't know when that will be, but it will probably be quite a long time away. So like, that's the way. I mean, it might be OPA v2, like we don't know yet. But you know, it's not something that is going to be an immediate removal. It's not something that we're immediately going to find ourselves with a lot of pressure to remove. Like, we're doing a lot of the work for the V0 backwards compatibility V0 mode for yourselves, but other large integrators of OPA. So like, you know, this isn't a kind of second class feature, is maybe how I would describe it. Like, it's something that you know, I'm not going to say it's never going to go away, but it's
there's no plans to.
There's no planned time, and like it will need to be based on whatever we can glean in the way of, you know, usage and so on, and that will be done by kind of monitoring the open source Rego that there is, you know, all of the different signals that we might have for that.
And to share with you some of the calculus, which won't be surprising to you, I don't think. It like dovetails with a lot of what you were saying. Like Gatekeeper, like making changes to core Gatekeeper codes to support something like V1, like that's very doable, right? That doesn't like fan out, right? So just having it there, making it available for people to use, not an issue. When we go to like sort of the leaves of the policy tree, right, to all the different constraint templates that might have been written, like, you know, I don't even know who all has done that. Like, forcing that migration would be where I would see cost.
Well, but also I just want to mention, like, I know you said V0 is here to stay and it may get removed later, but unless there is a forcing function in place, it's really hard for Gatekeeper to tell people to stop using V0, right? So if at some point you start to evaluate, like, can we deprecate V0? If there's no forcing function, people will just continue to use the old one.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but like, yeah, and I mean, it's something that we're aware of, but yeah, we don't have a plan for removing the V0 compatible mode.
I think maybe
Yes,
the only
so
thing I would ask is, like, as consumers of this, if at some point you decide that you're interested in deprecating it, at least give us, like, I don't know, I would say like 6 months in advance notice or something like that, just
yeah,
to give people time to.
Well, I would say longer. So
Yeah.
longer notice.
Sure.
Because, like, as you said, no forcing function. So we would probably want to build that, right? Like,
Right.
warnings, eventually put it under a flag, eventually flip that flag's default to true. So users like break, but they can unbreak themselves. But now they're on notice. Like, oh, I can only unbreak myself for so long. That kind of stuff. And it takes a while for us to cut releases, users to get that code. So yeah, that would be helpful in terms, I think, also for
yeah,
you in terms of like
yeah.
surfacing
We would need to do the same elsewhere. So yeah, but I will note that down and yeah, share it accordingly. Yeah, I mean, my expectation was that you would need to make V1 opt-in anyway, because that would be the way to do it in a kind of non-breaking way. If people wanted to use V1, they would have to opt in. So therefore, people would by default continue to have access to V0. So yeah, this is about like maintaining your continuing to use an up-to-date OPA and how you support that post OPA 1.0 rather than like how you get all of your users to upgrade to Rego V1.
Just for confirming my understanding, like, even today, if we were to go to V1 with the compatibility flag, like, things should just work, right?
If you were to go to when you say, oh, you were just to
OPA
update
V1.
to,
Like,
yeah,
if
so you would
V1 with existing V0 policies with the compatibility flag, things should just work, right?
yes, so you would set the Rego V0 version in your and then you would not support V1, but you would be using OPA 1. So yeah, that would be how you would do it.
Gotcha.
So you would just assume you would use that set Rego version in your Rego arguments, set that to V0,
Sure.
and then all of everything should stay the same.
Okay. I mean, at a minimum, we could do that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing we need to do, especially with like the CVE fixes and whatnot for the OPA.
Yep. And then we can figure out how to support both at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
I don't know whether yeah, like I don't know. I guess you'll find out if people start trying to create Rego V1 policies and complaining about it in issues. But
there has been, I think, one issue with someone trying to use Rego V1 with using the current import from future
Rego
import
V1.
V1 or whatever.
Okay, future keywords, yeah.
Yeah, so Gatekeeper, and I asked a question. Thank you for responding. So I actually forget who responded to the issue, but so there's this Rego rewriter code that we have, mostly archaic, because we no longer need sandboxing in the same way. But one thing it does do is statically analyze the rego to make sure the rules that we expect to be present are present.
Okay.
And so it used to be that when you called rego parse with v0 flavored rego, the rule.name fields, I might be slightly using the wrong wording here, in the abstract syntax tree that parse creates is populated, right? So you could just check rule.name equals violation. Okay, there's a violation rule. With v1, that's
I think it was like a ref head. Yeah, like they had written it something equivalent. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, no, I do remember that issue.
Yeah. So that will someone's clearly tried to use rego v1 in Gatekeeper because that issue came up. Two, that's another thing that will need to be addressed.
Do you mind finding that issue somewhere?
I could try. Yeah.
Or later. It's okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I can't remember whether it was a Gatekeeper issue.
I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
so sounds like we're pretty, and if I may, can we do this maybe for 319? Like not 318, because we're getting really close to 18 RC. This is also seems like a pretty big change that we should make sure we have enough time to soak and test.
Which one? Just setting the V1.
Yeah, like this change. Like maybe we do it for 319 instead of 318. The upcoming.
Charlie, do we have the V1 OPA V1 yet?
What do you mean?
We haven't. The release isn't out yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
Is that what you mean?
There
Like
is a V1 compat one for the old one, but there is no V1 for V0 compat. So there's nothing we can do at this time until OPA releases.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then yeah.
This is like a future.
Oh, okay.
Future problem.
So you can use the set rego version v0 today, but yeah, like
it doesn't do anything, I guess, because it's already.
So you don't need to. You don't need to do this until you only need to just when you actually upgrade to OPA 1.0, which isn't out yet. So yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, if that wasn't clear.
Oh, because you guys been talking the blog post and also talked about.
I know.
So I thought it was already out. Okay.
It is coming. It is coming.
Cool.
Do you have a rough timeline, Charlie?
Yeah, we are still aiming for the 2nd of December. But we're not. We may push that back, but we're aiming for the 2nd of December.
Release in December, you said?
Yeah, December 2nd was the date that we had been targeting. I haven't had an update on that since I went to KubeCon, and so I think that still stands.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you for sharing your thoughts and everything. And let us know when you have like the example stuff, so we can.
Yeah, I'll put together another example with the compiler tomorrow, but yeah.
Yeah, take your time. I mean, we're not like in a rush right now, I guess.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, so these are keywords for V1. I guess that is that why.
Yeah, I think it's that they are using and it's like I think that the problem is they've got like this mix, right? And don't know let me just have a look.
They could not ingest rego thing. That's a Gatekeeper thing. And they tried to use the old flavor, which obviously is not V1 compliant. And so, yeah, there's totally an answer here, but this will require some like finagling just to figure out, okay, so then how do we know then that the rule body is definitely violation? Like, I'm sure it's possible. I just need to poke at the behavior of the parsing output to make sure it's not like struct dot violation now, you're right, or some other like composed rule, like how Srinatus is.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this here just so we make sure we will be able to handle this case when we do it.
Oh yeah, like without fixing this, users just straight up.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense. Okay. Shall we move to the next topic? 8 minutes left. Let's go.
Yes, I just added, so we check in on the release. I think obviously the test is a blocker. Anything else?
Well, you know, this PR is out, but also the one we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
They explicitly delete that by name.
I mean, it'd be good to fix, I guess, like given that generating is, I think, still in alpha in this stage, like it's acceptable to push it with a known bug. I think it's just a matter of, do you want to try to get it in?
Yeah, do we think it's a release blocker for the 318, or could we handle it in 318.1?
I mean that the unit test where it fails, it actually flips the failure policy to fail. So we do want that in 318, right?
I mean, I don't expect much back and forth on this particular PR either.
Yeah.
It's just a call to delete.
Famous last word. I don't believe that.
Right.
I mean, I feel like it's more of a problem because we're doing this very quickly. I think if you just use it as a real user, you probably won't even notice it. This is more of a CI thing, I think. But I still would like to have it eventually, so I'm okay not having this as a blocker just so we can cut RC because we are already a few weeks late.
Are we failing closed currently with generation? Is that why we're getting this bug or this test failure?
Yes.
Yeah, we are trying to get to fail close.
Okay.
That's the PR.
I forget whether we also failed closed or just set the delay. Because it's user configurable. We wanted it to be at the end, if I remember right.
No, if you don't provide failure policy, remember this is a constraint. Yeah.
Oh, we wanted the default behavior to match,
Yeah,
and
so
yeah, we haven't yet. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If you don't have failure policy, we'll just set it to close,
Makes
fail,
sense.
which is why you're seeing this. Yeah. By the way, I asked the cell guys about the 30 seconds thing. They said it's actually just a const that could be changed. And so they're expecting a PR from me at some point. It could just change.
To what?
I don't know, maybe like I'll change it to 15 or something. And we'll see. Let's see. Because they said they just added it at the time. It was like no reason why it had to be 30.
But
nice
why did there need to be any kind of wait?
That's a good question. I'm guessing just because of it takes time for the cache to update. But why 30 is just what I heard was it's kind of a random thing. Yeah.
On the same note, I found one more to do that you added, Rita, for exposing the operations on VAP safely to end users. Like, is it fine? I shared the link on the chat. Is it fine if we do it in 319 also.
Which one? This one? Updated version. Oh, sorry, this one you mean?
No, can you scroll down?
Uh-huh.
Sorry, open the issue on this one. The linked issue. Yeah.
Mhm.
Scroll down. Yeah, the second to do on the description, right? Like exposing the operations on VAP, like create, update, probably delete.
Oh, I think that can wait because it's still alpha, I guess. Uh,
Yeah,
like I think. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, there is a link to the file and place I'm referring to as well on the second bullet point.
Oh, this one, right?
Yeah.
Why did it jump? Yes. Yeah, I remember we didn't explicitly do delete. Yeah. Um,
So the question is, we can follow up with another PR and not block on the release with this change if we want to expose it to users, basically.
I think so. Yeah. Um, and just to confirm my understanding, for 318, are we moving? I know Cell Engine for the webhook is going to GA, right? But for the VAP generation stuff, is that going to beta or is it staying alpha?
Alpha.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we purposefully, that's why we wanted to get status in this
Okay.
PR so that we had room to change it if there was something we're like, oops.
Okay. I know that's what we said, and that's what we said in the at the KubeCon, but um just clarifying. Yeah, I mean if it's staying in alpha, then yeah, it makes sense to we can add those other things in the next release. Yeah. Incrementally exposing bugs.
It's
All
called
right.
soak time.
Huh?
It's called soak time.
Yes.
It's
Okay,
it's good.
cool. Well, good to see everyone. Talk to you next time. Bye.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you for coming.
See you later.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, keep in touch. See you around.
Bye.